Hello, this is Dale Matthews. I just flew in from the county commissioners meeting, and boy, my arm's tired. Here on Inside News tonight, I'm joined by Mike Jones as usual. Hello, Mike Jones as usual.
Hey, Dale.
Hey. So on the front page of today's Daily Courier is an article by Jeff Duell. Jeff Duell writes about the ONC counties threaten to sue BLM over timber plan, and it starts this way. The Association of ONC Counties plans to sue the Bureau of Land Management later this year unless the federal agency changes course on timber harvests, its members say. Mike?
The lawsuit will come once the BLM finalizes its latest management plan, expected this spring or summer, according to Josephine County Commissioner Simon Hare, Vice President of the association.
Well, besides Vice President of the association, the important part about that is, when are they going to do it? Sometime this spring or in the summer.
Yeah, maybe someday.
Yeah, one of these days they're going to get to it. Hare said on yesterday, that the law firm Stoll Reeves of Portland was chosen to litigate at the group's monthly meeting in Eugene last week. That's the monthly meeting where a couple of Josephine County citizens went and talked to that board and said, do you really want Simon Hare as your vice president? They said, well, yes, of course, he's highly qualified. Mike?
The timber industry has battled the BLM for 2 decades over reduced timber harvests on 250 million acres in 18 Western Oregon counties hard hit economically by the 1994 Northwest Forest Plan.
A predicted annual harvest of 500 million board feet was identified in the 1937 ONC Act, which laid out plans for management by the BLM of lands once owned by the long defunct Oregon and California Railroad, ONC, according to Hare. These figures hadn't been met in 20 years as federal clean air and water regulations and other factors have led to a decline in harvests.
The preferred alternative in the draft of the BLM plan calls for harvest of 235 million board feet, and the maximum amount would be 486 million.
So that's out of the predicted annual harvest of 500. Okay.
Right.
So, quote, not a single one of the alternatives to the BLM scoped satisfies the minimum requirement of the ONC Act, says Hare. My belief is somewhere between 500 million board feet minimum and the 1.2 billion sustainable yield would be appropriate.
An analysis by the association concluded that 1.2 billion board feet is the maximum sustained yield based on tree growth calculated in 2008. The suit resembles one filed in 1995, the last time the BLM revised management plans. It was settled in 2003 with a commitment from the BLM to do another management plan.
The Western Oregon Plan Revision, they called it WOPR, Western Oregon Plan Revision, finalized in 2008, would have ramped up timber harvest, but it was set aside in the first few days of the Obama administration.
The latest revision isn't good enough either, the timber interests say. We could be optimistic and think maybe the BLM is changing course and going to comply with the ONC Act. But we're preparing ourselves in case, said Rocky McVeigh, executive director of the association. It's my sense the BLM is not going to change course. Yeah, what's been your clue on that one?
Okay, then I'm going to read just one last part.
Sure.
Barring a last-minute extension by Congress, the last payment of $4.3 million will go to the fiscal year beginning July 1, Hare said. We're supposed to get the last check at the end of this month or early next month, and that's it. Now, wait a second. Mike, why does he keep saying this?
Well, I'm just wondering who his source is here because, maybe he has information that none of the rest of us have. I'm not really aware, but.
Well, dang, he's not even his own source. Just yesterday, he was saying something different.
Yeah.
So this is that deal that we talked about last night. It's like that old those old jungle movies where you've got, the lion that's been eating the villagers or whatever, and you got the beaters out there and they're making noise and the lion's trying to get away from them. Even better would be Planet of the Apes, where the apes are out there and they're banging this and they're herding the humans into a corner, and that corner is called vote for the next levy, and they're banging and banging and banging and banging, and you're supposed to run away from this horrible thing so that they can shoot you on the other side, or Cheryl can throw her four-pointed stars at you. And
Dale loves this analogy.
It's not working well, but I'm sticking with it. So really, he keeps telling this to the Courier. Well, the money's going to run out. And just a couple of days ago, we had the senator who said, well, it's going to be a tough fight, but it's going to happen year after year. And just yesterday, they were saying in the meeting, well, even Simon was saying, well, this is going to continue and that's going to continue. Why is he telling the Courier it's not going to continue, Mike?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this kind of reminds me of anecdotes I've heard in the past of outside politicians coming into town telling you about how, they're about to dump a bunch of money on you, and the local politicians going, hey, shut up. We got a levy in the works here. You're going to mess it up for us. So
that's exactly right. It did happen.
So, I mean, Simon keeps wanting to put this thing out there. Hey, listen, just state your source. Just state your source. Let's, I mean, if you got some inside guy there that's telling you this and he's credible, just let us all in on it, please. Because, until then, I don't buy any of it.
There's three different ways of reporting this kind of story. One is the way that we do it, which is we try to find out what the sources are and we try to report what they're saying, and we listen to more people than just Simon Hare or just Cheryl Walker. The second way to do it is the way the KJO does it, is that they actually add in and agree with Simon. Yes, it's definitely all over. Well, let me tell you how over it is. And they go even further than Simon does and talking about how it's all a disaster. And then the third way is what the Courier's doing, is they report what Simon says, but then they don't follow up to try to find out if it's a bunch of blather or not.
Yeah. Well, and who would they talk to confirm whether or not that's correct?
How about Senator Merkley? Senator Merkley's in Washington, D.C. We've got two U.S. senators there. They say that they're working on this in a year-by-year thing, and to be fair, it's going to be a tough fight, but they're saying, no, this isn't it's not all over, but for domestic consumption right here, Simon is saying he says in the little back room to the other commissioners, well, it's a continuing thing. And then he says to the Courier, well, it's all over. Now, which is it? All over or a continuing thing?
Yeah, I don't really know. And it's funny because in the video that we played last night, Cheryl was saying that, boy, what was it specifically that she said?
Well, you can paraphrase if you have to. It's okay. People are used to that.
Yes, it was one of those things where, they're not talking about it right now in Washington. Oh. So, and it's funny because we've been saying that like it's a joke, and she mentioned it in the video that we played last night, like, if they're not talking about it right now, that it's just not going to happen. Well,
there's a reason they're not talking about it. You want to tell everybody again the reason why they're not talking about it, Mike?
Okay. Let's take, for instance, what happens, at the end of the year when they have to pass the budget. No one's even doing anything. And then it's a scramble. Oh my God, we have to pass the budget. And, it's a thing where they're long nights. I mean, they could pass the budget in February if they wanted to, but no, they do some last minute raising of the debt ceiling in the, right before they go to recess in December or something like that. It's the bizarrest thing. And they do it every single year, but why would they even talk if they're wasting their time all year long, not talking about the budget? Why would they even waste time? This ONC thing, that's nothing to them. They don't care about this. It gets tacked onto some bill, it
does. It always gets tacked onto a bill. And the other reason they're not talking about it is because this was a 2-year deal. Well, guess what? during the first, after they pass it, they're not going to talk about it until almost the end of 2 years. That's why they're not talking about, oh, I don't hear anybody talking about it. That means nothing's going to happen. No, it means we already got the money. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They've already set it aside. Doesn't mean we've gotten the check. Okay.
Something like that. Yes.
You know what? Technically, it's right that no, they're not talking about it. But technically, it's danged wrong that means that nothing's going to happen. Of course, they're not talking about it. They're not going to keep. I don't know if this is going to work, but if you decide where your grandchildren or children are going to go to high school, you don't keep talking about it every year about where they're going to go to high school. They're going to be there for 3 or 4 years. That's it. You stop talking about that particular thing for a little while. You're not talking about what you're cooking for dinner, my darling husband. Yeah, well, I'm not talking about it because you were already eating it.
Yeah, right. Something like that. Yes.
Oh, geez. Notice how I changed that right away. It almost looked like it was going to. Oh, never mind. The woman. So okay. So that's the bottom line on this one is the ONC counties, because we've been saying this for a while, why aren't you doing something? Well, we're definitely going to do something now. Why, you just wait till, I don't know, spring, maybe summer, and then we're going to do. Mike, why do you think it is that Simon Hare felt that it was necessary to go to the Courier with this story and tell him this to get on the front page and talk about what a wonderful thing he's doing as the vice president of the ONC counties, as if it doesn't answer itself? Why would he do that? Why would he want the publicity? This is not a story. In summer.
Right. I mean, this is the same thing as this was the propaganda story that you didn't have to pay somebody to write for you.
Yes.
So I mean, that's basically what it's about. And but I'm interested to know the motivation for coming out with this right now. They must have telegraphed that this Linn County thing was going to come out, and they were going to look like idiots for not doing anything for years. I don't know who this Association of ONC Counties is. I don't have any respect for them at all because, I mean, how come there hasn't been a constant drumbeat of activity like this from the day that I arrived here in Oregon from these people? Why haven't I heard that constantly, that they're going after these guys that are,
not paying their bills?
They're damming up the works.
That's right.
How come we haven't been going after them from day one, thumping constant drumbeat of war against these people? I mean,
okay. First of all,
it's just ridiculous to me.
Be damming it up if it's a breach of contract, because those two things are opposites, right? There's a breach in the dam.
Yes.
Sorry, Mike. Anyway, so I've got this logo over my shoulder. This is the really fascinating logo for Linn County. Sorry, that's about the best that I could do quickly. There's a story out of Linn County just today. We've got video, we've got commentary, we've got an article from the Portland Tribune. And so we're going to read to you, that'll be fascinating for you. We're going to read to you part of the article from the Portland Tribune, and then, because this is a television show, we're going to play some video. Wow, what a treat. Okay, so the article from the Tribune says, the Portland Tribune, Linn County takes state forest land fight into the courtroom. And then the subtitle is, lawsuit could seek $1.4 billion in damages for breach of contract in the Oregon Forest Trust Lands Program. Mike?
By Paris Aiken?
Yes.
For the Portland Tribune, January 13th, 2016. Salem. Linn County plans to seek more than $1.4 billion in damages in a lawsuit against the state of Oregon for breach of contract in management of forest land in 15 counties.
Why did it drop from 18 to 15? We can't figure this out.
Yeah, there's something here that I don't quite understand about that. But I had never heard the term forest trust lands before today either. I had always thought, okay, we got the BLM, we got the Forest Service, and the federal government are involved in this ONC thing. And I had never heard that the state of Oregon had some sort of role in it. And maybe we didn't hear any of that because our commissioners are a bunch of adults who should have been bringing this up to us, but never talked about it at all.
Yeah, two people in the audience brought it up at tonight's meeting, and Simon kind of reluctantly talked a little bit about it, but he pretty much downplayed it. But we're going to tell you what the article says. Linn County Special Counsel delivered a letter to Governor Kate Brown and then slapped her across the face, and State Forester Doug Decker today, telling him of Linn County's plan to file a suit after a mandatory 30-day waiting period. The governor's office has not commented on the lawsuit. Mike?
I wonder what the waiting period is about. I mean, that's an odd thing. It's like, you might reconsider this. You might not be quite as mad in a month.
It's mandatory.
Yes, yeah, it is. Okay. So the governor's office has not commented on the lawsuit. Up to 150 local taxing districts that receive timber sales receipts from harvests from the Oregon Forest Trust Lands contract would be eligible to join the suit. That includes schools, libraries, public safety agencies, and other districts.
Other counties, listen for our name, that benefit from the trust are Benton, Clackamas, Clatsop, Columbia, Coos, Douglas, Josephine County, Klamath, Lane, Lincoln, Marion, Polk, Tillamook, and Washington County.
A judge would have to approve class action status of the lawsuit. Quotes here, there have been general discussions and angst for years about the distribution formula and how counties have been deprived of revenue by state, said Portland attorney John DiLorenzo, who represents Linn County in the suit. It's no surprise that they're not getting much of a return from the arrangement as they should be.
So I talked to John DiLorenzo today, of course, because we're journalists, and had a nice conversation with him. And he says, tell me more about your show. And I could say, oh boy, there it goes. Well, so I told him about our show, and I said, well, how would you like to come on live tonight and talk to us about this? He said, well, maybe we could do it. Could you call me about that tomorrow? And I said, yeah, sure. So we'll see. But first, he'll need to talk with Cheryl Walker about whether it's okay to even speak with us. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and actually, somebody that you're going to see some video of shortly might be an interesting guest as well, because we will introduce to you a video of a man who has the cojones to do the job.
Oh, nice.
So yes, right. So where were we here?
The 15 counties have contracted.
Okay, the 15 counties have contracted with the state since the 1930s to manage forest lands for the land's greatest permanent value, in quotes. Linn County and the state are at odds over the meaning of that term. The county claims the term means the greatest economic value allowable under state and federal regulations, and that returns ought to match what a private land manager would glean off the land. In 1998, the state defined the term to mean economic, ecological, recreational, and aesthetic returns. Yeah, what bank can you cash those checks in? And
I'm here to cash my aesthetic return. Thank you very much.
And implemented a management plan based on that definition starting in 2000, DiLorenzo said.
Linn County estimates that the 150 local districts in the 15 counties have missed out on $35 million per year in revenue for the past 15 years. Now, let me mention something about tonight's show, about tonight's meeting of the once a month. It's in the evening. It was at 5:30, and that's why we started a little bit late this evening. And Simon Hare says this is a big yawn to him, basically. See, he's not the vice president of any of these groups. He is vice president of the group that wants to do this one of these days. And so I think that's the reason they put this out, because of this Linn County story. But Simon says, yeah, I was just having a conversation with our finance director the other day. And yeah, we haven't seen any of the receipts. I've asked him, well, how much money are we getting from the state? And they both thought about it. And, well, it turns out we don't seem to be getting anything at all. Oh, well, okay, next question.
Okay, bizarre.
All of these local districts, you want to read that part?
Sure. Yes, I just noticed that. Yes. Okay. All of those local districts in need of funding, especially in the area of public safety, he said, lives would be vastly improved if these monies were distributed to these districts, or like the aesthetic returns might be valuable to those districts too.
Now, when I talked with DeLorenzo, he also
those.
suggested that I might want to speak with Commissioner Roger Nyquist. And the article continues, DeLorenzo and Linn County Commissioner Roger Nyquist declined to specify whether the county first approached DeLorenzo's law firm, Dwight Tremaine, or whether the law firm approached the county to propose the class action lawsuit. Well, or whatever. That is in the story. DeLorenzo said the lawsuit was one of those perfect storms when everything came together. He said he'd been watching how the state had been managing the forest land. Meanwhile, timber counties had expressed growing contention over the state's performance, except, obviously, not Josephine County, because where have we been?
Yeah. This is the really weird thing. It's like the first I'd ever heard of this, as I said. And so if other counties were expressing dismay about this, it certainly wasn't Josephine County that was doing it. They're either ignorant of it or they're trying to keep the people ignorant of it.
Well, we've talked many times about, and this is no mystery, this place is too small for Simon Hare. He goes out on these trips to the coast. He goes to the coast to talk with them about their forest lands because he wants to be some kind of state rep guy. If not state representative, something else having to do it. Like Wally Hicks was our state representative, and now Carl Wilson is our state representative. And this is something that Simon Hare wants to do. So is he really going to go up, like I said earlier, and slap the governor in the face with this kind? No, they're not interested in being the bad boys. They want to be the good cooperative boys, the collaborative boys.
Right. Yes. And bucking government to try and get what you're due from government is not on these people's agenda. Not any one of them.
No, that would just be on the agenda of actually representing the local public. So we don't even know about this. So he was like fairly dismissive of that. Well, yeah, it's something that could be done. But, I'm really going to think that we're going to go along with the ONC plan, which is going to happen maybe sometime in the spring. And then again, maybe sometime in the summer. It sort of depends on
maybe someday.
So, okay, let's suppose that this whole thing is a waste of time and that nothing is going to happen. Okay, worst case scenario. We don't always talk worst case scenarios. Yes, we do. And so all that it does is remind your local people that you're on their side. I kind of like that idea anyway, it does make you look like you're trying to do something. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. We've never even heard of this.
It's just you.
We've never even heard of this. So congratulations, Linn County. You deserve a better logo over my shoulder. You're doing it, buddy. And people even asked that tonight. Well, Bill Hunker, when are you going to tell us? He didn't say it this way. When are you going to tell us more about it? No, he wasn't like that. He was like, are you going to tell us more about this? And Simon's like, well, yeah, well, the real action is over here with people who aren't going to do stuff for, several seasons.
Ever. Listen, you know what? You're going to have to show me, make me look like a fool. Okay. Association with ONC counties, make me look like an idiot by actually doing something. Until then, just keep your mouth shut, please.
But Simon's been working on this for years and years and years and years and years. He's been working on it for 5 years. And now they've actually got a plan where sometime this summer, maybe, let's see, what is it, January? Yeah. Maybe August. They'll get around to, come on now, Mike, get with the program.
Wow.
Okay. We have videotape. That's even more interesting than watching us talk.
Mhm.
And so Mike is going to play a pace. A pace. Mike is going to play a piece.
Yes, I am.
Mike is going to play a piece of plaster.
I have two pieces of videotape here. One is they're both from KVAL 13 in Eugene, I believe it is, and talking about this. The first one is just sort of detailing what's going on, and the second one is an actual interview with this Mr. Nyquist, who is the chair of the Linn County Board of Commissioners.
Let's see him.
Here's first one right here.
Yeah, one at a time, please.
Some new information. We now know why Linn County is suing the state of Oregon for $1.4 billion.
KVAL's Tom Adams is live at the state capitol, where county leaders just held a press conference. Tom, what did they say?
Well, Wesley and Julie, good afternoon from the Capitol. Linn County commissioners have delivered notice to Governor Brown and also State Forester Doug Decker that they intend to file a major class action lawsuit. This is the front page of the notice to the state and what it looks like. Essentially, it's huge. On a day where $1.5 billion worth of money is up for grabs in Powerball, the Linn County commissioners are asking for an almost identical amount in this class action suit, an amount of $1.4 billion. The lawsuit is for alleged breach of contract by the state for lands managed for the Forest Trust Land Association. That includes Linn County and 14 other counties in Western Oregon. The county board says the state is violating its contract with the counties in a management plan that they feel cheats all the counties out of roughly $35 million per year going back to the year 2000. In other words, the commissioners want more trees to be logged on these state lands. Linn County commissioners say that they stand to gain roughly $97 million if this lawsuit is a success. The lead attorney told the news conference today they expect the lawsuit to be filed within the next 30 days. It's a developing story. More details coming up later today on KVAL News at 5 and 6. For now, live at the Capitol, Tom Adams.
That's weird. Cut off. Okay, so KVAL's out there doing a story. And meanwhile, over on Channel 10 in Medford, they've got a story which is about this big, just a couple of sentences, and they've got 12. Okay, and they've got some kind of generic still picture. And there's nothing on Channel 5 that we know of, nothing on the other, nothing in the Courier, of course, never going to be anything in KJO. We're the only news agency here that's giving you this kind of coverage. Well, that's for now. Okay. In my opinion, there's two kinds of exclusives. One is you're the first one in your area, or the second one is you're the only one. Sometimes we're the first and only. This time, at this particular time of day, let's see, what is it, 8 o'clock, we are the only one that is reporting to you this stuff of compilation of information from a variety of sources. We certainly won't be the last one, but nobody here seems real interested in this, and maybe the TV stations don't want to do it because it hasn't been in the Courier yet. I don't know. Really?
Maybe. We have an interview that's about 1 minute 40 seconds with Mr. Nyquist, who is the chair of the board.
We're here to announce that we're pursuing a class action suit against the state of Oregon on behalf of Forest Trust Land counties, 15 of them in Oregon, and in the amount of $1.4 billion. We're doing that in part as a result of how this all started. Counties turned land over to the state in the 30s and 40s. After the Depression, the state agreed to manage those in a way that generated the greatest permanent value to counties and the taxing districts. The short story is that in 1998, the Department of Forestry passed an administrative rule that changed their focus, and that's cost beneficiaries, taxing districts, and counties a lot of money.
Neil Renzel's tracked the losses, he said, back to 2000.
Correct.
Roughly.
That's when the new administrative rule was implemented and they started managing too.
Okay. So do other counties have the option to opt into this class action, or are they automatically?
Well, there's no litigation that's been filed yet. What we did today was deliver the 30-day notice to the state. And so at that time, they will be named, and they then get the option of staying in. They can opt out if they want. When you look at the dollars involved, I don't know why they would, but that will play out as we go along here.
Okay.
My hope is to resolve this issue for rural communities in Oregon. They're the folks who have really been hurt by the change in forest management policies in this state.
Hey, now, Mike, aren't we a rural community in Oregon?
I think so.
Well, where's our team?
Yeah, and why wasn't our team? Listen, I mean, we've speaking of beating the bushes or whatever, we've been beating this drum for a long time now to try and get these, and they act as though you guys are a bunch of extremists to expect that something like that can even actually be done. And we don't do that. We don't buck the government here. What do you think? We're a bunch of toothless hicks or militia type
commissioners. Yeah.
It's one of those things, and it's because this type of activity is friction to the culture in which they live, which is inside government stuff, and we don't mess with our government buddies. Yeah,
it's definitely taking on the state government on the side of the people. On the side of the people, how can an imperial court take on the side of the people? They've got to work with their buddies up north, because you're not going to get anything done. If you're not at the table chumming it up with your buds, then you're on the menu, or whatever it is that Simon always says.
Whatever. And listen, even worse track record than this association of ONC counties, Simon Hare. Simon Hare hasn't done anything. He comes back and he rambles on and it sounds really good. Oh boy, he's so smart. Nothing. Goose egg.
It really does sound good. I'm sitting there in the audience, taping for you guys, okay, so that we'd have our own copy, because there have been times when they've just cut and it never appeared. And so we've got the copy. And so I'm sitting there thinking, boy, this guy really knows his stuff, because he can look straight up. He's not looking at notes. Well, the 15 and the 35 and the square root of the hypotenuse. And wow, it sounds really, really great. The only thing is, all of that expertise, if you don't have the cojones to go out there and take them on, it's useless to us.
Yeah. You know what? Listen, these people, and I'm talking about whoever in the federal government, whatever target in the federal government. And apparently there's a new target on the scene, the state government. Those people should be quaking in their boots when they hear that you're on their phone, and a phone call is coming in from you. They should not want to hear from you, because you're the guy that always gives them hell. You should be that person.
We know what that's like, Mike. We know exactly what that's like. We get up and stand and speak, and they're like, I know what you're. In fact, they've even said a couple of times, I know what you're going to say. How the heck would you know what I'm going to say? You better sit down, because we already know what you're going to say. How do you know what I'm going to say? Well, it won't be positive. Yeah. Well, good guess.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we don't have any commissioners like that who are interested in actually pursuing the interests of the people. All they are interested in is their own interests, and interests that are not going to ruffle any feathers. It'd be nice if we could have a couple of bucks, but we're not going to ruffle any feathers. Hey, we're here to all get along. Well, no, we're not. That's not what we're sending you there for.
Yes, just in case you think that Mike's maybe exaggerating a little. Well, you're being a little tough on him. Remember what I mentioned earlier. We now know that Simon knows, and the other two, they don't know what's going on, that we haven't been receiving the money we're supposed to have been receiving. Wait a minute. Aren't we hanging on by our fingernails? Aren't we not? Isn't this an emergency situation? And we've not been receiving this money, and we were supposed to receive the money? And he's talking with the finance director. Yep, we sure haven't received any of this money. Oh, well, what's the net? What are we going to have for lunch?
And listen, speaking of which, tonight wasn't JJ Schofield in there getting raises cost of living raises for all of his employees and all this stuff. And they had no problem. They didn't even debate that. They just rammed it right through.
Yeah, they won't get them immediately, but they're definitely going to get them.
Oh.
It's going to be a sweet deal. And Sandy Casanelli got up, God bless her, and she goes down through the numbers. She's telling us the numbers that nobody else told us. She figured them out. And she's reading them off. Bunga, dunga, 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 and she sounded like Simon Hare with forest stuff, except Sandy's talking about something we can do something about. Simon's, oh, well, when you got the board feet and the thing and the hey, wait a minute. This is doing us no good if you're not going to do anything about it. Well,
right.
I'm going to get around to that. Look for me sometime in the summer.
Yeah. We should have more than great sounding intellectual conversations about this. I don't want to have any more conversations. I want you to get something done. Okay. And if you're not making progress on that, then just get out of there and let somebody else in there who is going to do something.
If you've had it up to here with intellectual conversations, this is the right place to come.
That's right. Yes. This is we should be pursuing the right things and programs and, economic development grants and all that stuff. Yeah, it sounds fantastic, but it's mental, what.
Okay.
So let's just get beyond that.
Again, minimum, even if it's hopeless, like Cheryl Walker says, it won't do us any good because we'll never win. Okay, first of all, let's get rid of people who say that.
Yes, for
let's
sure.
get rid of that. Second thing is, even if it's just for domestic consumption. Now, this is a heck of a thing to say. Sorry, this is not all the end all of everything. Even if the only reason you're doing something that's just simply symbolic, it will tell the local people that you care as long as you're actually doing something.
Yeah, I'm not down with that.
At least sending a letter is better than sending nothing.
Right. Yeah, but you know what? If that's where your resolve ends, you're the wrong person for the job.
No, I don't mean that's where your resolve ends. But can you at least
here's the bottom line. If you want to get something done, ask Donald Trump how he gets a hotel built. Yes. He goes, I'm going to build that hotel, and then he's on it until it's done. So that is what your job is if you're a commissioner, to be on it until you're done. And if you're not doing that, then I'm not interested.
So what you should do is you should make a deal with the Teamsters and the Mafia, and then you will get your hotel built and you will get your contracts signed.
Hey, listen, if that's what it takes.
You got to work with those guys sometimes. Sometimes you do.
You know what? Listen, I'm not opposed to cracking a few eggs here.
Oh, I thought you were going to say legs or heads. Okay. Yeah, well, we ran into, and this is a preview of tomorrow's show. Unless we get this guy on live, and who knows, we might. It's possible. He looked really happy to be on camera, didn't he? Boy, he was happy to be on camera. When we were fighting against, when 80% of the people in Grants Pass were fighting against 80. Who is this 20%? We're going to find out one of these days. When we were fighting against this thing about the city sales tax, which was wrong from the beginning, and we kept trying to tell them it was, one of the people that joined together with us in the courtroom was Colleen Martin from the Grants Pass Chamber of Commerce. Now, Colleen has been in favor of every property tax you can think of. She's the one that said, let's not let the public anymore into these gatherings where we're hearing legislative updates. Really? Well, no, why would you do that? You're in with maybe sometimes two commissioners, which is a quorum. You're talking about county business, and nobody wants to let us in there. And Wally Hicks is in there talking with the guy. What's up with this? That's absolutely against the law. And I talked to Colleen Martin. I said, well, what about this? There's a point. There's a reason I'm saying this. What about this? Well, I just don't think it's quite appropriate. Hey, we always used to do it. Yeah, well, it's still not quite appropriate. Okay, so that's the end of that. But we worked together with Colleen on this thing in the courtroom and also to defeat this thing about the sales tax. Now, she's immediately gone over to the other side about the property tax. Okay, but for a short time, our paths converged. And the same thing's going to happen tomorrow night with, if it is tomorrow night, with Rika Brown, who is dead set against most First Amendment things, does not want people to speak. Where you can only say happy, positive things, and you have to, say to the commissioners, "You are our beloved chosen ones," or whatever her phrase is. It's lunatic, buddy. But for a while, when we're talking about some things, we might find something in common. You have to do that. And in this case, whether Simon Hare hates the commissioners from Linn County, or maybe he's not vice president of their group, gee, that's too bad. Well, then, can you please fight for the citizens? You know the reason? No, because he cannot go alongside the citizens, because they're never going to be on the same side. The citizens and this imperial court, not going to happen, buddy. Mike, so what should we do?
What do you mean?
What should our county do? If you were a county commissioner, what would you do?
Well, if you've been watching tonight's program, I've been pretty clear about what my platform would be. Number one, go after this like a ravenous dog. It doesn't matter if it's the federal government that you're at odds with or the state government that you're at odds with. And I know that even if the feds got off your back, you would immediately be encumbered by the state and have to go to war with them too. So the bottom line is that we're going to have to buck government in order to get what the people have coming to them. And that would be pretty much the task that I would consider to be job one as a commissioner, and everything else is pretty ancillary after that. I don't think there's a whole lot. Listen, I think commissioners do too much. They consider too much legislation that comes into their sphere. They spend too much time on stupid stuff. Let's take care of the big stuff and let the rest of the stuff take care of itself.
Wow.
That's my thing.
So I've got two things to say. One is, I forget. And the other one is, the best defense. What? I almost escaped with that one. The best defense is a good offense. And I will challenge you to find two more offensive people than Mike and I.